Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into today's video. So for today, we are going to be focusing specifically on application. So today's video is going to be structured a little bit differently. But as always, I'm going to go ahead and start on my bare nails. We're going to be using the peel off base coat method for today's video. You guys have seen me do this a few times since I started using this method, but if you don't know, I just want to start off by using some cuticle oil, then applying 2 coats of matte top coat. And as of lately, I have been using a little bit less cuticle oil so that they don't pop off as soon as I start filing them or whatever the case may be. But if you are using this method, just know that you don't have to use too much oil. And of course, in between each coat of matte top coat, I'm just going to cure it for 30 seconds. So once we have both of those matte top coat layers cured, we're just going to go ahead and glue on our tips. And for today, I'm going to be using my XXL nail tips that I use in pretty much all of my videos. As always, everything that I use will be listed down in the description box below. And to glue on those tips, I'm just taking the same matte top coat and curing for a full 30 seconds. So today's set is going to be pretty long, so I am taking an extra tip just to glue on to the pinky. And of course, I'm just going to take my nail scissors to cut down the tips to the same length. Now, me personally, I do like my pinky to be the same exact length as the rest of my nails, but I do know that there are some people who do like to make it slightly shorter, so do whatever works best for you. So here I thought it would be interesting to show you guys how I cut down my thumb. So basically I make a pinching motion and whatever overlaps, I just go ahead and cut off. And I'm also going to take this time to cut down the excess tip on that pinky. So this part is optional, but I am also taking my nail clippers and getting rid of some of that ledge just because I don't like how bulky it is. And once I have all of that cut down, I do take my nail file just to get rid of that excess tip. And I am making sure to be super careful as to not file off the matte top coat. Lastly, before we go ahead and shape these tips up, I am going in with one more layer of matte top coat. Now, this may all be on my head, but I do feel like this helps secure the nail tips when I go ahead and shape with my nail file. But as with a lot of the tips that I mention in my videos, this isn't necessary and you can feel free to skip this step and go straight into filing. So I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but I do feel like when I go in with my nail file, it isn't as secure as I would like it to be. So I have been using my sanding band just to make sure that the tips are nice and straight. What I will say is that make sure that you have a good handle on the tip so that your nail tip isn't like vibrating all over the place, especially if you are using a high speed. And so with everything prepped, we are finally ready to move into the acrylic application. So with today's application, I thought it would be a good idea to structure this in a way that you guys can understand, because if you guys do watch my videos, you guys know that my application kind of varies video to video, so I wanted to do something that was more consistent. So with that being said, I will go ahead and explain the tips to you that I have on each nail so that you guys have it down pat. But because I am kind of just like talking during this portion, I will start doing that at the middle finger. As for now, just go ahead and watch me do this application. Okay, so now that you've had some time to visualize what I've been doing, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next finger. So the first bead that I apply on the nail, I make sure to apply it 1/3 of the way up the nail. It doesn't have to be perfectly 1/3 of the way up the nail, just make sure that you are visualizing your nails split up into threes, specifically for the 3-bead method. And of course, after the bead is applied 1/3 of the way upwards, you wanna make sure to drag it down as best as you can, get rid of any excess acrylic, and smooth out the side. Now, the key to being able to drag it down as best as you can is to make sure that you are working with a liquid to powder ratio that works best for the acrylic that you're using. So because I am using a faster drying acrylic, I don't dry out the bead as much as I would if the acrylic were to be more slow setting. Anyways, onto the nails. The second bead is 2/3 of the way up the nail, and it's basically the exact same deal. And for that third bead, it will be placed at the cuticle. As for the cuticle bead, I would suggest not hyper fixating on getting it too close to the cuticle, as you don't want to start to flood the cuticle. Perfecting your cuticle bead application does come with time. Now, this fourth bead is going to be used to create that apex. And typically for me, I do like to apply it just slightly lower than the cuticle bead. So for this apex bead, you want to make sure that you are not dragging it completely off of the nail. The point is to give that nail some structure, so you want to make sure that most of that acrylic stays on the nail. So with that being said, use very light force. The last bead that I add to this nail goes directly in the center, and it's a bit smaller than the rest. This bead just helps me to maintain that nice straight structure. So once again, we're gonna go ahead and with our first bead, applying it 1/3 of the ways down the nail. Before dragging everything down, I do wanna make sure that the bead is in the center of the nail. Once it's centered, I do pat and drag it down as best as I can, chopping off any excess acrylic at the tip. And of course, before the bead fully sets, I do like to smooth out the sides as to maintain that shape. Next, we have our second bead that goes 2/3 of the way down the nail. Make sure that it is fully centered before you start to drag everything down. And I should also mention that it is okay to go in with smaller beads just to correct anything that you might have messed up. Because the point of this is not to be perfect, but to be clean. So make sure that everything is nice and clean, but don't stress about it being perfect. But anyways, that cuticle bead is going 3/3 of the way fully up the nail, and we're just gonna go ahead and smooth that out, making sure not to flood the cuticle. Next, we have our fourth bead that is going to be used to help build our apex. It is applied just slightly below that cuticle bead. And of course, you want to make sure that you are not completely dragging that bead off of the nail and wait for it to set a little bit before you start to manipulate it. And finally, our fifth bead is used to maintain that straight structure. And remember, this bead is slightly smaller than the rest and applied in the center of the nail. And so now that I've kind of explained my process to you, I do want to go ahead and let you guys watch the process so that you guys can get the hang of what I'm doing. And I will say that it is very, very important to actually practice your acrylic application. You can jot down all of these tips and tricks, but if you're not actually practicing, you're not going to learn anything. So definitely practice on yourself, a practice hand, or with someone that will allow you to play with their nails. At the end of this year, so December 2023, it will mark my 3rd year of doing nails, and I'm still very much practicing with my acrylic application and just how to do nails in general. So remember to not be discouraged and to keep pushing forward, because even nail techs who are professionals, people who have been doing nails for 10 plus years, they still are learning so much because nails change so much, techniques change so much, and it's just a lifelong journey of like learning new techniques, and that's perfectly okay. But enough of me talking like I always do. I'm just gonna go ahead and let you guys watch the rest of this application, and we'll be back for the shaping and filing. And so here is what the application is looking like once we are all finished. Again, not perfect, but definitely clean. Our clean acrylic application will help the shaping process go a lot faster and smoother. So I'm just going to go in with my 80/80 grit nail file just to file the undersides and the sidewalls of the nail. Now, because we kept our application nice and smooth, I am really making sure not to overfile, especially underneath the nail, because that will create a ledge and it just doesn't really look great. And because we've maintained the shape during the application process, this takes maybe about 2 to 3 minutes on each nail. So next I'm going to go in with my medium sanding band just to further seal that cuticle. Now, if you are a beginner, I do recommend using a sanding band or even a cuticle bit rather than something like a carbide bit, just because it is a lot easier to cut yourself with a carbide bit. So a sanding band is a little bit safer. And what I will say about the sanding band is that it debulks a little bit slower. And if you are a beginner, someone who maybe has issues with overfiling, especially when it comes to the apex, I definitely recommend using a sanding band because you can observe the nail for longer periods of time without having to worry about taking too much of that acrylic off. But regardless of whatever tool you're using, you want to make sure to keep that drill bit moving across the surface as to not cause any heat spikes. And now I'm going in with that same 80/80 grit nail file just to completely smooth out the surface. And this is probably going to be a little bit repetitive of me to say, but because we do have a smooth application, we don't have to do too much work during this step. So during this process, you want to make sure that you are completely smoothing out the structure as much as you can. Normally, when I file my nails, I like to make sure that the apex flows directly into the length of the nail. That is how I know that it is super nice and smooth. So typically, I only show you guys what it looks like from above, but you want to make sure that during this step, you are looking at your nail from multiple different angles to make sure that every single part of your nail is nice and smooth. And as you can see, that apex runs directly into the tip of the nail and is nice and straight. So I kind of feel like this goes without mentioning, but your structure is really going to depend on your personal style. It is always good to remember that nails are a work of art and it varies depending on the person. So if you are a beginner, it is good to sort of learn from other nail artists, but with time you will naturally start to develop your own style and your nails will look unique to you. While a lot of these steps and tips and tricks or whatever are based on my style of nails, do not take this video as like a holy grail or like exactly how you're supposed to do it, because with time you're going to develop your own tips and tricks and you're going to be, just doing your own thing, and that's really what we're striving for. Okay, so after we have completely smoothed out the nail, I am going to go ahead and reshape those ends. And as you can see, I do hold my nail file at an angle. This just allows my nails to look a little bit more C-curved, and it also gives it a little bit more of a crisp look, if that makes sense. However, if you do like your nails to be a little bit more straight, I do recommend holding your nail tip perpendicular to the nail file. So it should be a 90-degree angle in order to make it super straight. And so now I'm going in with this coarse bit. Actually, this is the first time that I've used a coarse bit on my channel, but it's just slightly coarser than the one that I regularly use. I just didn't feel like filing under the nails for an eternity. So yeah, this just definitely speeds up the process a little bit. And of course, I have said this a million times at this point, but this is not necessary. I just like to do this because it makes the nails appear a little bit more thin and just a little bit more crisp. And to finish off the shaping process, I will just go ahead and end with my mini buffer just to smooth out all the scratches caused by the nail file. Okay, and so after washing my hands, this is what the structure is looking like. Everything is super nice and clean, and I'm definitely in love with the structure. Now, because this video is centered around the application and like the shaping and stuff, I didn't really think that I would do too much talking during this step. Now, since I started doing my voiceovers, I haven't gotten any complaints on like talking too much, but I haven't given you guys a silent video in a very long time. And I know there is some people out there who may not like voiceovers of someone just talking their head off for 45 minutes straight. So I thought it would be a good idea to just let you guys watch and just chill out and just enjoy the nail art. Now, I will say that this nail art was very, very experimental. So please don't say anything about that. I know it's kind of weird, but I think in the end it came out pretty okay. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, I am finally going to shut up and let you guys finish watching the rest of this nail art, and we'll be back for the review. Okay, so here is what the nail art is looking like. Again, very, very experimental, but I definitely like it. I don't know, it started to grow on me a little bit. Definitely kind of Christmassy with the green and red, but I kind of like it. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, wanted to experiment with something a little bit different, something that I've never really done before. And of course, something a little bit more simple. I've kind of been extra lately, so yeah. But of course, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this off with some cuticle oil. And here is what this set is looking like after we are finished. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Now, I know that this video is structured a little bit differently than my normal videos, but I really wanted to focus on showing you guys my application process just so that you guys have a little bit more of understanding of how I do it and how I get my nails to look the way that they look. And of course, it goes without saying, I really hope that this video was as helpful as I can make it. I'm not an instructional type of person, but I tried my best to explain it in ways that could be understood. So if this video was helpful or you learned something new today, please let me know down in the comments. And of course, if there's anything that I may have missed, let me know. But as always, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you guys in the next one.